Hey, what's up guys? JayzTwoCents here, and we took a look earlier this year at some LG ultra-wide monitors that were debuted, or at least kind of teased at CES. And we took a look at the 34UM67, we took a look at the 34UC97, which was a curved 34-inch IPS display. But there was a lot of complaints that people had about that particular panel, the 3440 by 1440p curved display. And LG actually listened up and made some changes. So we're gonna be taking a look today at the 34UC87C, which exists purely because of consumer feedback.
Dude.
What?
It's so small.
You really think so?
What does the wife think?
Well, she says it gets the job done.
Mine's not that small.
The Fractal Design Node 202. It's not about how big it is, but all about how you use it. So let's start by kind of going over some of the features that the UC97 had, or the 34UC97 had, which was a great monitor, don't get me wrong, but there was a lot of things that people didn't like about it, which kind of hurt its sales and hurt some of its adoption rate. First things first, a lot of people didn't really care for the gold color. I don't know, it was more or less Apple-esque, if you will. A lot of people didn't like the way it looked in their home offices or their businesses or even their gaming setups, so a lot of people skipped it over simply because of the aesthetics of it. Another thing people complained about was the stand. It didn't have any height adjustment on it whatsoever. It was mounted in one position and that was it. It looked really nice. It was made out of metal, and like a polished chromed metal. It looked really, really slick, but it had no adjustment, and that really didn't work out very well for a lot of people. I mean, it's a 34-inch monitor. You might need to raise it or lower it depending on your setup. So they've gone ahead on this model and kind of revamped that. But probably the most common complaint was it was just too damn expensive at well over $1,000. It had things that made it worth $1,000 though. It was an IPS panel. It was a 3440 by 1440p, 21:9, curved panel, very high quality IPS panel. People just didn't want some of the features that were in there. For instance, the Thunderbolt or Thunderbolt pass-through. And so they just really requested that LG make a more affordable model. Now that's exactly what we're looking at here in the 34UC87C. But it maintains its QHD 3440 by 1440p pixel resolution, and the fact that it's still an IPS panel. Now they also got away from the gold color and went to a nice matte black. It looks very, very slick. And also a very nice gunmetal gray all metal construction stand, which is height adjustable. That is very, very important. Now, one of the things that I don't think a lot of people complained about, because not many people use monitor mounts, but I personally had a complaint about, was their implementation of how the VESA mount worked on the UC97, where you had to kind of use an adapter thing and then an adapter plate and then mount it on, and it stuck it real far out. It was one of the reasons why I never implemented it in my Skunkworks panel setup. Even though it was an IPS panel, it would have been perfect for content creation like I do. But the UC87 actually has a 100 by 100 VESA mount on the back of the panel, which is perfect. So you don't have any of these additional adapters or anything that you have to stick on there. So that was a really nice implementation to see. Now, one of the things too that's really nice about 21:9 monitor aspect ratio is a lot of developers are now implementing this into their games, where you're no longer getting the black bars on the side for it being kind of a weird one-off resolution. It's a much more widely adopted resolution now, which is why I'm considering moving this panel over to Skunkworks and getting rid of my 4-panel array and just going with 1 or 2 of these guys. I would get more space lit back on my desk, especially if I stacked 2 of these on top of each other, and would gain IPS. The only downside is because it's IPS, we still have very low refresh rates at 60 Hertz. Now, I know I called that very low, but when I've been running 144 Hertz panels for over a year now, 60 Hertz does seem very slow and choppy, at least until you get used to it again. Not to mention it will alleviate some temperature in the room. I won't have as many power plugs or power bricks going. The monitors put off heat themselves, and this room does get very hot in the summer. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to implement this as a standalone monitor. It's definitely going up top for my rig to have an IPS editing monitor because, well, you know, IPS is the color accuracy of IPS is as close as you can get to real life, and that's what's important. But it's also important to realize that IPS while gaming is going to make your colors seem a little bit more flat, not as bright and poppy, I think that's the right term, as TN panels. But the off viewing angles are going to be perfect. The curved panel of this gives you a nice kind of immersion where you don't have any of the skewing that you get with a flat panel, especially something 34 inches, you know, in diagonal measurement. And I think that the gaming aspect of 21:9 is really starting to become something that is widely adopted, and you can do it now without any sort of downsides. Now, there are quite a few picture modes in this thing, and one of them is game mode, which is supposed to help with the saturation. But I think the game mode on an IPS panel looks worse than TN. It just doesn't look very good at all. So I would just leave it on photo mode, which tends to give a little bit more just a little bit more saturation, but still keeps a lot of the IPS color calibration in there. Now I did notice that all the settings from this panel came on custom settings. So I have a feeling this one might have been pre-calibrated before it was sent to me. I don't know if they actually come pre-calibrated or not. Since this is a review sample, it might have been professionally calibrated, but I can tell you that everything looks really good on this panel. Especially when you open up photos and stuff and video editing. I really do think this is going to make its way over to my system, at least on the top panel, so I can have my preview and stuff up there. But I think 21:9 curved panels are definitely something to consider, both for gaming, productivity, and just all around awesome panel to take a look at. So guys, this has been the 34UC87C from LG. Definitely nice to see this panel considering it exists because of community feedback, and we like to see when companies make changes that are directly related to what the customers are saying. So good job on that one, LG. Anyway guys, I'm gonna get on out of here. Thanks for checking out today's video. If you didn't see the original video of the 34UC97, look in the description. You guys will see a link to that video, and you'll be able to kind of compare the two side by side, and you'll see a little more of what I was talking about with the changes they made here versus the UC97. And even though this one's a lot cheaper at a time of filming right now at $899, yeah, it's very expensive still, but I think that this is actually a better panel for a guy like me than a lot of the functions on the more expensive panel like the 97. So anyway guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.